So today we're going to deep dive into the most common mistakes that you're making when tracking using MyFitnessPal. So when the goal is fat loss, MyFitnessPal is probably one of the most used nutritional trackers. And it can be super helpful, but only when the data is tracked accurately. And if you're making these simple mistakes, you're likely not accounting for hundreds of calories per day, and this is the reason why you're not dropping that body fat. So let's kickstart with mistake number one, which is entering the whole meal as opposed to the individual ingredients. So a prime example of this is entering in your morning breakfast, and let's say you're having scrambled eggs. And you go into MyFitnessPal and you simply type in scrambled eggs, you find the closest one which has the best calorie number, and you add that one in. And as you can see, when you search for scrambled eggs on MyFitnessPal, you get 100 different responses, all with different calorie and macronutrient breakdowns, and all of which are going to be different to yours. So let's say you've just entered in your scrambled eggs for roughly 200 calories. When actually, when we put in your individual ingredients, let's say 3 medium eggs, a teaspoon of butter, and a teaspoon of oil, your calorie intake comes in much higher, which means then you think you've got way more calories left for the day than you actually do. And as you can see, this can quickly stack up throughout the day and the week, meaning that you yourself are wondering why you haven't dropped body fat that week, because you've been hitting your calorie targets every single day based off the whole meal that you've entered into MyFitnessPal, when the reality is you've gone over by hundreds of calories every single day due to this one simple mistake. And the same can be said whether we're having homemade burgers or homemade pasta dishes. If you want the most accurate results, you have to put in your own individual ingredients instead of searching for a generic option on the app. I know this may seem time consuming, and at first it is. However, once you've created this recipe, be that your scrambled eggs, the pasta or the burgers, you can simply save that as a recipe in MyFitnessPal and refer back to that moving forward. Next up is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see being made on a regular basis, and that's entering in the cooked weight food when you've measured out the raw weight food. And this mistake typically occurs when you're entering in carbohydrates, things like pastas and rice. Now, when you look at the back of the packaging on the food, it would typically either state the weight and the calories based off its cooked weight or its raw weight. However, these can consistently change depending on the brand of which you purchase. For example, the nutritional information for this pasta here shows you 100 grams of pasta in its cooked weight, which equates to roughly 176 calories. Whereas this pasta here displays the nutritional information in its uncooked weight, and per 100 grams equates to roughly 356 calories. So what you're likely doing right now is that you're entering in 100 grams of cooked weight pasta into your MyFitnessPal, when actually you've weighed out and cooked 100 grams of raw weight pasta. Now, using this one as an example, that's almost a difference of 180 calories, and 180 calories that you're not accounting for. So again, you stack that up across the day and across the week, you're potentially underreporting somewhere between 1,000 to 2,000 calories per week. So where possible, I always recommend that you weigh out in its uncooked weight and then you enter it into MyFitnessPal in its uncooked weight. If in doubt, make sure to check the back of the packaging. Now, the final mistake that you're making is something that I always find rather magical. And this isn't necessarily a fault of MyFitnessPal, but a fault of yours. And this is that regardless as to whether you're cooking and eating and weighing out your food perfectly from home, or whether you're eating out for the whole day, somehow, magically, your food calorie intake always matches that of your target. So even if you've been out eating at food markets or in fancy restaurants, calorie intake just so happens to be exactly within your 1,500 calorie target, for example, which to me seems somewhat suspicious. When I'm seeing data being entered like 3/4 of a cookie or 375 grams worth of pizza, where you get the exact calories, which just allows you to stay within your total calorie intake for the day, for me, that's very wishful thinking. And the only person you're lying to is yourself. So you may as well be honest and report the true calorie reflection. No, it doesn't look perfect on the stats, but at the end of the day, if you're not seeing that unwanted body fat drop off, now you know why. It's because you've been consistently spilling over your calories, unlike what you've been reporting, which is a perfect calorie intake every single day. And the more and more you start to see where you're going wrong, where the calories are spilling over, and from what foods are causing you to do that, the quicker you can correct that, and the quicker the weight will start trending down. Now, obviously, when you're eating out, it's much harder to guesstimate your calories. But I always recommend that you overestimate, and like I said, whether that spills you over your calories or not, it's a true, honest reflection. We're not always going to know the calories. And this brings me on to my last and final MyFitnessPal bonus, which is when you're eating out, and how to track the calories if they're not being displayed on the menu. So this one is difficult And to be honest with you, it's always going to be somewhat of a guesstimate. Whether you're eating at a fast food joint or fine dining, if the calories aren't displayed on the menu, you're going to have to do your best to guess. So as a general rule of thumb, I would always recommend to bank at least 1,000 calories for your meal out. Typically these days, it's very hard to find a meal on the menu which is going to be less than 1,000 calories. Or what you can do is you can find an equivalent. So for example, if I've gone out for a burger and fries and the calories aren't displayed on the menu, what I will do is find a menu that does display the calories. For example, a Shake Shack. Again, it's not going to be equivalent, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be a best guess. And I'd rather do that than completely underestimate and go way over my calories for the day. So a quick final recap is make sure you're entering in individual ingredients for your recipes. Don't steal someone else's off MyFitnessPal. Number 2 is to double check whether you're entering in the raw weight or the cooked weight. Number 3 is to be honest and don't be afraid to spill over your calories. It gives you an opportunity to do better. Lastly, if in doubt and you're going out for food, overestimate on the calories or try to find an equivalent swap. Hopefully, as always, you found that useful, guys. And if you did, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you're not already following me on Instagram, head over to TA Fitness Online and again, click that follow button.